What is the leaky pipeline? By me, Kaylin Chamorro. The leaky pipeline is a social phenomenon that specifically talks about gender inequality. The term was coined by this guy, Clark Blickenstaff, in 2005. This phenomenon describes the loss of women found within the field of STEM and at higher career levels. According to the World Economic Forum, while the numbers have increased over the years, women have only made up 28.2% of the STEM global workforce in 2024, while in non-STEM related work fields, they comprise 47.3%. And according to the LinkedIn 2025 economic graph, in 2022, only 30.6% of women are in leadership positions, only increasing 0.2% per year. Though it may seem small, this small percentage without progress allows for a lack of representation and diversity, which leads to a lack of diverse voices in healthcare, businesses, and education, and of course, STEM. While this may seem very similar to the glass ceiling, which we covered earlier this semester, they're very different, but yet they're still related. The glass ceiling, for those who need a reminder, refers to an invisible barrier that prevents women and minorities from advancing in social mobility, like in advancing in leadership positions, while the leaky pipeline discusses women dropping out or never joining these fields or positions in the first place. But that's not to say that the glass ceiling doesn't influence women's decisions to drop out or never enter these fields or positions. In fact, there are many factors. These factors are often contributed to sexism and systematic issues, which legal scholar Joan C. Williams comments on. The factor of proving it again, where women need to constantly prove their worth compared to a male in the same situation where they don't need to prove themselves. Tightrope, where a woman walks a thin line of being liked but not respected, or respected but not liked. An example of this is that a woman being assertive is viewed as bossy, meaning she's respected but not liked, or presenting as submissive and feminine, you are liked but yet not respected. The isolation factor also plays a key component, especially for STEM, where many female students feel isolated within a STEM classroom or STEM major, as it is heavily dominated by men. This can also be related to other factors we've discussed in class, like the motherhood penalty, biases in education, or imposter syndrome, and of course, the daunting glass ceiling. Lack of role models also plays a huge role, where women seeing men in higher positions or as scientists creates the idea that these positions aren't for them. Well, how do we solve this? I believe in a way we already are, through a modern social movement on social media. Many of you might have heard the term women in STEM or women in male-dominated fields through social media. Social media has become a platform where women can find role models, where they can find community through shared experience that lead to many to have the strength, to have resilience to pursue their passions. While this sounds amazing on the surface, as Sharia Srikanth discusses in her research on whether social media and women in STEM have a direct correlation, she finds out, well, it does, but not nearly enough to close the gender gap. We have to look further into policy and bias changes. Things like Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination in education and promotes equality in programs, which include STEM programs. Also increasing funding for said programs that have support, mentorship, and community for women. And to also just encourage young girls that they're just as capable as boys. These ideas are promoted by AAUW, or American Association of University Women, which is a non-profit established in 1881 and is fighting to break down the barriers of gender within education and in STEM, which I highly recommend looking into. As for closing the gender gap for leadership positions, we can work towards more representations and role models, destroying the maternal wall, providing equal pay, establishing mentorship, and focusing on allyship. Even with all this, closing the gender gap is a lot of work. It's something that's been deeply rooted in our history. But a long time ago, we didn't even have the right to vote. So I can't see why we can't strive for more equality with such impactful parts of our society. Thank you for listening.